Imagine a country's economy not as a spreadsheet or a political map, but as a living, breathing organism. Right now, the Russian state is operating as the ultimate system error in the global economy.
And that is exactly where we fundamentally disagree, right from the start.
We are observing a massive, systemic bug where the physical resources of a nation, the raw materials meant to fuel the systemic metabolism and lower the baseline survival costs for the entire population, have been completely hijacked.
You call it a bug, but I look at it as a historical necessity.
They have been permanently diverted for the highly inefficient maintenance of power by a select few. This is not just a passing political crisis, it is a fatal violation of what we call circular capitalism.
But you're diagnosing a highly complex, historically battered geopolitical entity using, frankly, the sterile theoretical metrics of a computer operating system.
What we are looking at is a terminal flaw entirely devoid of natural economic metabolism. It is an architecture that is mathematically destined to collapse under the crushing weight of its own survival costs. I argue that this system is physically doomed.
Okay, but the oligarchic structure and its wealth accumulation in Russia, it just cannot simply be written off as a system error or a bug in the code. I look at this and I see a pragmatic reality.
The reality is necrosis. It is dead tissue.
No, it's not dead tissue. What you characterize as a fatal blood clot in your economic organism was in reality a vital evolutionary step. It was a step from absolute violent chaos to functional stability. Statecraft is not a laboratory experiment in circular resource distribution.
If a system does not distribute resources, it dies.
But it reflects the incredibly harsh realities of human survival. I mean, it's deeply ingrained historical context. The fundamental necessity of establishing order over pursuing some kind of theoretical economic perfection has to take precedence.
Order without metabolism is just stagnation. If you are listening to this and wondering what I mean by economic metabolism, think about the life cycle of a dollar in a healthy system.
Right. In theory.
In a functioning architecture governed by the strict logic of circular capitalism, capital and resources must undergo a continuous, roughly 10-year metabolic cycle. Wealth is extracted or created, yes, but it must return to the society.
But that assumes a stable society to begin with.
It has to be reinvested to repair the environment, to drive technological innovation, and ultimately lower the physical cost of survival for the organism as a whole. In Russia, wealth has become entirely disconnected from value creation.
It's disconnected because the environment was entirely hostile to value creation.
It is built strictly on hacking resource access. This is internal predation. The state's resources, primarily its vast reserves of fossil fuels, are hoarded by a few chosen cells, namely the oligarchs and the security elites.
You're ignoring how those cells form, though.
This hoarding completely stops the societal metabolism. It artificially inflates the physical survival costs for the rest of the system, while generating absolutely zero evolutionary progress for the nation.
I understand the theoretical appeal of a 10-year metabolic cycle where wealth neatly flows back into the soil and society. I really do. But your framework completely ignores the brutal, tangible reality of the 1990s.
The 1990s do not alter the math of resource extraction.
They absolutely alter the context. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union, the country was not existing in some state of theoretical grace. It was in a state of equal, devastating starvation. The sudden, unmanaged shift to a market economy, it wasn't a transition, it was a free fall.
A free fall that was exploited.
We are talking about hyperinflation wiping out life savings overnight, state industries grinding to an absolute halt, and citizens literally bartering for basic groceries. The original oligarchs were the only entities willing and capable of taking massive existential risks.
Let me interject right there, because the premise that these individuals took massive existential risks is mathematically false.
How can you say that? They risked everything.
We need to look closely at the genesis of this wealth. There was no entrepreneurial risk involved in the way a founder builds a company. What occurred in the 1990s was textbook informational asymmetry.
They were managing state assets that no one else had the capital to handle.
The state simply handed over the shelves of the national store to a few individuals who happened to be standing closest to the register when the lights went out. They didn't build the oil rigs, they didn't forge the steel mills.
But they organized them.
They simply leveraged inside connections to acquire state assets for pennies on the dollar.
Okay, let's actually break down what happened during that period, because the historical context is exactly what justifies their existence. During the mid-1990s, you had the emergence of the seven bankers, Shinna.
The seven bankers.
Exactly, the seven bankers, a small group of financial oligarchs who stepped into the vacuum of a failing state. At their peak, these seven men controlled anywhere from 50 to 70% of the Russian economy.
A massive blood clot.
In your biological framework, sure, you view this concentration of wealth as a clot killing the host. But in historical reality, they brought structure to a collapsing empire.
They brought monopolization.
When the Russian state could not pay its own pensioners, when the military was literally starving and selling off its own equipment just to survive, these financial industrial groups provided the capital to keep the basic functions of the nation from completely disintegrating.
That is a fundamental mischaracterization of events.
They secured the loans the government desperately needed to function. They rescued the system from total fragmentation.
I reject the word rescue entirely. You don't rescue a drowning man by stealing his boat and renting him a life jacket.
Come on, that's an oversimplification.
The individuals you call saviors were simply wearing a disposable muscle suit provided by a doping state. Let's translate this into a tangible scenario. Imagine a restaurant manager deciding what the customers will eat.
Okay, let's hear the analogy.
The manager takes all the finest cuts of meat and keeps them in the back room for a few V.I.P.s, serves the general public stale bread and tap water, and then tells the public that this theft is a necessary security fee to keep the restaurant open.
But the restaurant was burning down.
The V.I.P.s hoard the meat, claiming they are the only ones capable of preserving the restaurant's legacy. Meanwhile, out in the kitchen, the staff is burning their own furniture just to keep the stoves running.
It's not the same thing.
That is not stabilization. That is an artificial, state-sponsored monopoly on the caloric intake of an entire nation. It wasn't merit, it was a hack of the system.
But you cannot separate the restaurant from the incredibly dangerous neighborhood it operates in. If the V.I.P.s hadn't secured the back room, the entire building would have been burned to the ground by rival gangs.
That is an illusion, used to justify the theft.
And more importantly, you are freezing your analysis in the 1990s. The system didn't stay there. Vladimir Putin recognized the excesses of those original seven bankers, and he engineered a pragmatic fix. In the year 2000, he established what became known as the Zavidovo social contract.
A contract that didn't fix the metabolism, it just changed who controlled the hoarding.
Well, let me explain the mechanics of that contract, because it's crucial for understanding the stability of the modern state. Putin gathered the remaining oligarchs and laid out very clear new rules of engagement. You keep your accumulated wealth, but you stay entirely out of politics.
Changing the beneficiaries of the hack does not fix the code.
The era of the state answering to the billionaires was over. And when figures like Mikhail Khodorkovsky violated that contract, when they attempted to buy political influence, fund opposition parties, and act as autonomous political actors, Putin arrested them.
He centralized the inefficiency.
In 2003, he dismantled Khodorkovsky's massive empire, Yukos. That signaled a definitive return to central order. By suppressing the excesses of these initial oligarchs, the state drastically lowered poverty rates over the next decade.
Through the sheer luck of high global oil prices.
They stabilized the currency and provided the physical and psychological stability that citizens desperately craved. The transition from the freewheeling original oligarchs to the Silovarchs, the new oligarchs drawn from the security state, the FSB, the military, it was a legitimate, necessary strategy.
Swapping oligarchs for Silovarchs is merely changing broken parts in a failed operating system.
It brought the vital resources of the nation under the protective umbrella of state security.
The fundamental architecture of resource hijacking hasn't changed a single bit. You are defending a system that behaves like a crazy electrician.
A crazy electrician?
Imagine a house where the wiring is fundamentally dangerous. The voltage constantly spikes. When the room gets too bright, the electrician doesn't open the walls to fix the underlying wiring.
Because opening the walls would cause the house to collapse.
He just takes a hammer, smashes the brightest light bulbs, and screws in new, state-approved bulbs from his own toolbox. And meanwhile, he is spending 80% of the house's electricity on harassing the neighbors.
But the new bulbs provided reliable light. The previous bulbs were threatening to burn the house down.
The system is still burning enormous, unsustainable amounts of energy just to keep those new bulbs glowing and the neighbors intimidated.
It's maintaining a necessary perimeter.
The central mechanism, the extraction of finite physical resources to maintain the personal power of a few, has not been resolved. It has simply been militarized.
It has been secured.
You talk about the Silovarchs as if they are a protective umbrella, but they are just a different strain of the same virus. The wealth is still not cycling back into the society to innovate or lower the survival costs of the citizens. It is being converted into military hardware, propaganda, and personal fortresses.
I think you're completely ignoring the immense, tangible wealth this system has generated and sustained for its victors. You call it a failed system, but look at the reality of their existence on the global stage.
Their existence is a systemic drain.
These individuals possess unimaginable financial resources. They operate on a level of global financial influence that most nations envy. They own sprawling luxury villas in Dubai. They have fleets of mega yachts. They possess heavily fortified mega mansions in Sochi and the Altai Mountains.
Monuments to systemic failure.
Within the capitalist framework, regardless of your strict moral or biological objections to their origins, this is the ultimate proof of success. They have secured their assets, they've insulated themselves from global volatility, and they've achieved a lifestyle of absolute luxury.
That wealth is pure friction cost. It is an illusion of success.
How can you look at a multi-billionaire residing in a tax-free haven, wielding massive international purchasing power, and call that a system failure?
Because I don't look at a villa in Dubai and see a monument to capitalist triumph. I look at it and see a massive, paralyzed liability. In circular capitalism, as we established, capital must flow to innovate. It must have velocity.
It flows into their accounts just fine.
The wealth you are pointing to has zero velocity. It is not capital. It is a fixed survival fee. It is a war subscription.
It's asset preservation.
Those luxury properties and tax-free havens are not vacation homes for autonomous actors enjoying the fruits of their labor. They are desperate, golden cages designed to lock down assets in jurisdictions where they cannot be physically seized by the very state that enriched them.
But a golden cage is still made of gold. They have managed to preserve the wealth.
They haven't escaped the system. These men are not autonomous capitalists. They are walking, high-performance ATMs.
It is incredibly dismissive of their actual power.
Let's look at the actual mechanics of their existence. They constantly generate capital by extracting raw materials from the earth. But the state stands permanently next to them, periodically punching in its own PIN code to drain their accounts whenever it needs to fund its deficits.
It's taxation by other means.
The oligarchs pay out exorbitant, undocumented maintenance fees. They are forced to quietly fund state-mandated infrastructure projects. They outfit private militias. They sponsor geopolitical operations, all just to avoid being dismantled by Khodorkovsky.
Because they understand the social contract.
Their wealth is trapped. It is paralyzed in an entropic deadlock. It serves absolutely no societal function other than delaying their own execution by the state apparatus.
You call it an entropic deadlock, but I call it a stable equilibrium. And more importantly, the public supports this system because it works for them on a foundational level.
The public is anesthetized.
The average Russian citizen doesn't look at a billionaire in Dubai and worry about the lack of wealth velocity. They compare today to the utter devastation and chaos of the 1990s, and they accept this structure as a deeply reassuring normalcy.
Normalcy built on finite extraction.
The state provides basic security, national pride, and a functioning baseline of existence. You have to understand the historical resilience here. The Russian people are highly adaptable.
Adaptability does not change the laws of physics.
They have navigated the collapse of the Russian Empire, they survived the brutal realities of communism, and they endured the chaotic privatization of the 90s. What you forcefully label as a fatal system error, they view as a stable, predictable environment.
It is a predictable path to collapse.
They are not demanding your theoretical 10-year metabolism of wealth. They are demanding that the pensions are paid on time, the streets are relatively safe, and the state commands respect on the world stage. The system survives and will continue to survive because it has the implicit mandate of a population that vastly prefers strong, centralized control over theoretical economic optimization.
The population is under the influence of a powerful local anesthesia. What you are calling a mandate is actually state-controlled media and cultivated learned helplessness.
It's actual stability.
But it does not equal structural stability. It equals the artificial suppression of the system's pain receptors. If the nervous system is numbed, the organism doesn't know it's dying.
But the organism isn't dying. It's moving forward.
Let's visualize the actual trajectory of this state. It is a heavily modified junk car speeding down a steep hill. The engine is literally on fire, the structural integrity is failing, and the brakes gave out miles ago.
Okay, but
the driver has tinted the windows pitch black and turned the state radio up to maximum volume.
But the car is heavily armored, and the people inside are accustomed to a rough ride. As long as it keeps moving forward, they feel safe.
They feel the forward momentum, they hear the triumphant music blasting from the speakers, and they genuinely believe it is a smooth, powerful ride. But the car is only moving because of gravity.
It's moving because of immense resource wealth.
The system only survives by aggressively burning through its seed money, its finite fossil fuels. Traditional GDP, which this system uses to justify its success, is a flawed metric here.
It's the metric the entire world uses.
It only measures how fast we turn these physical, finite resources into ash. It measures the rate of combustion, not the health of the engine.
But the fuel isn't running out tomorrow.
Physical reality enforces a hard deadline. When the incline levels out, when the easy resources are exhausted, or the global market shifts away from them, the illusion of forward momentum will violently terminate. The car doesn't adapt, it crashes.
See, human adaptability and the pragmatic realities of geopolitical power simply cannot be modeled as a combustion engine running out of gas. That is too neat, too theoretical.
It is pure physics.
The geopolitical structure is resilient precisely because it relies on tangible, critical assets that the rest of the world cannot simply stop buying. As long as this system controls a significant portion of the globe's central resources, energy, critical minerals, agriculture, it will continuously find ways to inject new capital into its structure.
Capital that will immediately be hoarded and paralyzed.
The global market is pragmatic. It needs what they extract. The current hierarchy may be incredibly inefficient by your strict standards of circular capitalism. It may be top-heavy and reliant on coercion.
It is fatal.
But it provides basic internal security and ensures the state's sovereignty. As long as those fundamental human and national needs are met, this system will endure. It will mutate, it will find new markets, it will adapt its social contracts, but it will not undergo the neat, mathematically predictable collapse you are predicting. The real world is messier and far more durable than your theories suggest.
The physics of resource extraction do not care about geopolitical resilience. They do not care about how adaptable the human spirit is. The existing system of linear extraction and wealth constipation is physically doomed.
But they will just pivot to new buyers.
You mentioned the global market, but the global energy infrastructure is shifting. As the seed money of raw physical resources dries up, the exorbitant maintenance costs of this artificial, top-heavy hierarchy will trigger a rapid, uncontrolled collapse.
I just don't see that happening in our lifetimes.
The math of survival costs is absolute. Transitioning to circular capitalism, where we move away from empty financial hallucinations and base our economies on Earth restoration assets, or ERA, is not some utopian moral choice.
It sounds utopian.
Earth restoration assets mean we literally peg economic value to the act of regeneration of the environment and the lowering of societal survival costs, rather than the extraction of finite materials. It is the only rational, selfish investment for long-term survival.
But the world still runs on extraction today.
When the cheap resources are exhausted and the gravity runs out on that hill, this state will not magically mutate. It will inevitably turn inward. It will consume the oligarchs, it will consume the Silovarchs, and ultimately, it will consume itself in a final desperate attempt to meet its own bloated survival costs.
The physical math simply does not lie.